All right. We're back reading this book of numerology, and we're on chapter 9, which is covering the 9 year cycle of change. I don't know what that means, but I'm excited to find out. We're about halfway through the book, so it's a few more chapters to cover. I'm excited about hearing about this, though, so thank you for joining me. All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the Openly Occultic Book Club. A lot of people have been asking, well, what does openly occultic mean? What do you mean by occultic? So, once again, I want to go ahead and pull up this definition, right, of occult. Let's see. Let me move the PDF out the way. Here's occult. Occult means of, relating to, or dealing with supernatural or magical influences, agencies, or occurrences, right? But that's not the only definition, because also occult means available only to the initiate, something that's a secret or mysterious, right? So I like to, and then of course we have the third definition, beyond the realm of human comprehension or inscrutable. I like to kind of equate occult just to get us more comfortable with the topic that we're talking about, because we call it energy work around here, right? Just understanding energy, vibration, and frequencies. But I also like to liken it to, like, if you were to be thrust into an emergency room situation, you have to perform open heart surgery on a patient, emergency, right? So when you think of it in those terms, whatever it is that you're supposed to do in this emergency room, in this scenario, it would be mysterious for you. It would be a secret. You don't know anything about the human body on that level. You don't know how to do these things unless you were initiated into these things, unless you went through school, right, and learned all these things. Other than that, that whole scenario would be, you'd be flabbergasted. It would be mysterious for sure. And so that's what we're talking about here, because we're discussing frequency and vibrations in terms of, well, we want a higher quality life, right? We wish a higher quality life amongst people. So when we're learning about these things, numerology, astrology, human design, when we're learning about these things, we're learning about how the body works. We're learning about, just in, first of all, in general, right? Learning about the body, because you have a nervous system within your body. And we're learning about uh, the nervous system, the nerves, your lymphatic system, your organs, your energy centers, your chakras. We're learning about things of this nature. And so, of course, it delves into things that you can't primarily see with your eyes, right? But energetic centers. We have planets out there. You can't necessarily see them with your eyes, see those things with your eyes, but something's going on. I like to call planets energetic centers because it's the same thing. You feel me? I feel like it's the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. And so we're just discussing energy and how it uniquely shapes all of us, right? So if you understand what I'm saying, and you like the sound of that, it just makes sense, and you want other people to understand this and not be so, spooked out by words, um, go ahead and make sure to share the video, right? Because we're going to get back into this PDF, and we're talking about numerology. So people are like, well, tell me about numerology. Well, we've been reading about in the past few episodes. Definitely been dealing more with energy this season too. We started out with the fire of Melchizedek or what have you, discussing the Kundalini energy within your body, right? The electric energy within the body. And now we're reading about numerology, discussing the vibration of the numbers of your birth date, right? And the addition and what have you of the numbers that make up your birth date. And we read all these things, chapter, we read all about why and how in so many ways. Then we read about each number, and we've learned about ruling numbers, which is the number, your ruling number. And then we learned just about, how you have multiple numbers that make up your birth date, right? So you have all these different numbers as well, but outside of the ruling number. So we learned about all that in the past 2, 3 episodes, and now we're here on chapter 9. We're discussing the 9 year cycle of change. And I didn't even, did you know there was a 9 year cycle of change? There's a lot of cycles, isn't there? Astrologically speaking, there's cycles. We know that. So here we are talking in a numerology book, and we're discussing a cycle of 9 years. Here's a quote from William Shakespeare out of Julius Caesar, the fourth, three, what have you. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. Okay? Life was not meant to be boring. Indeed, for those already on the path, it is anything but. Those approaching their path or facilitating on and off of it find that plenty of variety adds spice to their lives, albeit some of which proves most frustrating until they get their lives in order. Few people these days are boring enough to languish in a rut of monotony, unless the lives of many in bygone centuries when variety and opportunity were far less prevalent. Right? So, unlike the lives of many in the past centuries, when variety and opportunity were far less prevalent, few people these days are boring enough to languish in a rut of monotony. Right? We got all this technology everywhere. Consequently, it's come to pass that in this modern age, a lot more people are able to take advantage of the diverse aspects of their personality and express themselves with a freedom hitherto virtually unknown in the history of this planet. Not that such diversity is new per se, but that its expression is considerably less inhibited, right? Mm-hmm. Even in my era, because I grew up, I was born in the 80s. So, we had libraries in school. We had TV cable that turned off at a certain hour of the night. So we didn't have access at all times in all ways to information. But we may do, and here we are, right? Come on. So, from our study of numerology, we know that human personality has always had potentially diverse aspects. These are revealed by the day number, the numbers, or lack thereof, on the birth chart, and the personal year numbers, leading as they do to the pyramids. See chapter 10. So, we haven't read about that yet, but we will. These pyramids. Okay, I like. So we know that we have diverse aspects, and we know we have a ruling number, right? And we know we have day numbers, right? And so I was likening the day number to like the south node in so many ways. That's where you were or where you came. You kind of mastered that energy already. You don't need to dwell in that in this incarnation. You're kind of looking towards the north node. You're moving forward. And so you need to embody your ruling number, not your day number. So I was kind of likening the ruling number and the day number to the north and south node in the last episode. Tell me if I'm wrong. I was just ruminating and putting astrological terms on the numerology thing because they all overlap, right? We're still talking about energy work, right? We're just talking about vibration, frequency, energies. So But, I also was saying, this ruling number is akin to a sine wave, right? The sin on your calculator, right? It says sin. That's the sine wave. So, excuse me, it's a trigonometry function on how to mathematically calculate a frequency. So I'm like, the ruling number is our ruling frequency, our main frequency. It's the sin that you were born into, right? The sine wave, right? And so we talked about that in the last episode. Let me know though if you feel me. Leave a purple heart in the comments for me. So yeah, from our study of numerology, like we said, we know that human personality has always had potentially diverse aspects, right? You're made up of a lot of frequencies. We know that. Um, these are revealed by the day number, the numbers or lack thereof on the birth chart, and the personal year numbers, leading as they do to the pyramids. There are two significant aspects to the understanding of personal numerology, the basic and the flexible. The numbers of our birth date provide the basic aspects, while the flexible aspects are the cyclical variations that fall within the ambit of the personal year cycles, and within them, the monthly cycles. Okay? We have all found that some years of our lives exemplify progress, while others become remembered for their time consuming annoyances. Our memory seems to cling to these extremes. However, were the memory more reliable and more cognizant of other than extremes, we would also recall those years of stabilizing quietude when no significant material progress or frustration occurred. We would also have detected cycles of change running through our lives. Okay? This is good for me to hear right now. This is speaking to me, you know? There's a lot of cycles going on, guys. Yeah. Let's see. These cycles facilitate the progress that we're able to achieve as we evolve through the endless lesson book entitled Life on Earth. Recognizing as we do that the purpose of human life is to evolve towards perfection, it is fundamental to our understanding that such evolvement imply growth, and growth demands change. Mhm. Okay, every form on earth, be it animate or inanimate, experiences constant change. Rocks, oceans, mountains, and deserts are all undergoing change, albeit over extremely long time cycles. Plants, birds, animals, humans, and all other living forms are constantly undergoing stages of far more rapid change. Far more rapid, right? I don't know. Um, I like to look into Tartaria, topics of free energy, Tartaria, even meltology, right? Let me know in the comments section if you know what I'm talking about. In meltology, they say there was an X Factor event, and that's what happened with all the Tartarian melted structures and all that. And some planet, some factor X Factor event, right? So meaning that some of these rocks and deserts and mountains and stuff might have undergone change that was more recent, a more recent cycle than what we think. Because an X Factor event could have happened. I don't know if it's like a nuclear event, I don't know, but something happened fairly recently, like the 1700s, 16, 1500s. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm into looking into those type of things too. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. Anyway, uniquely of all life forms, humans alone are endowed with the inherent ability to exercise some form of control over their change, both in substance and time. But how we handle this distinctive ability is very much an individual expression, and all too often one that's largely ignored, right? Hmm. Unfortunately, many people tend to react to change or attempt to totally resist it, thereby inducing physical pain, which is clearly our resistance to change. Hmm. We all need to become courageous to venture beyond our comfort zone by taking affirmative action to attain optimum benefits from inevitable change. Hmm. Wow. There's been times where I've done some kind of alchemy, if you will, to cause a change for myself. Um, so yeah, I can, I guess once you start knowing about energy and your own energy and having a more better idea of what you don't want, you know, I did that one time. Let's see, because there I go again, going off. I'm just thinking this is provoking a lot of thought in me. It says change is more than accepting minor variations in your lifestyle. It necessitates that we embrace personal courage, right? The very antithesis of frustration and boredom. Courage. So, what do we have to lose? Why is it that millions of people throughout the world continue to fear change? All they do is make a token motion towards the improvement of their lot in life, generally ignoring the major opportunities that come their way time and again. Okay? The excitement of change that's felt by most people during their later years of adolescence and their earlier years of maturity, their 20s and 30s, often diminishes to complacency as they reach their 40s and 50s. While in their 60s, they often not only retire from work, but also life. During these progressive years of maturity, when great strides can be taken to develop personal financial success with the underpinning of past experience and accumulated wisdom, so many people lapse into mental slumber. As their excitement for life wanes, so does the life force in their bodies. It's then that they commence their descent towards death, a protracted journey that might last a decade or two, but one that did not have to be. Hmm. Okay. The recognition of our personal year cycles and guiding our lives successfully through them distinguishes the exceptional from the average person. We've all known exceptional people in whose presence we feel uplifted. At times, their success may cause us to experience a touch of envy. They might not have had the advantage of understanding about their personal year numbers, but they certainly had the intuition and wisdom to go with the flow in their lives. Indeed, we all like to win in life, but too few are prepared to be winners. Is it because we're so uncertain of the foundation of our success? Now, with this new insight, right, now with this insight into individual personal year numbers, we can reliably chart our course with a dependable expectation of its outcome. Here at our disposal is a proven technique to aid the transition from average human to exceptional, such that the exceptional becomes the norm. Whoa. Okay. This is great news. This is good stuff. I like to hear it. Once we arrive at the point of our lives when we recognize and understand these cycles of change, we find we find it in our advantage to cooperate with them. This is not to imply that we become enslaved to them any more than the apple tree is enslaved to the seasons as they're calculated on the calendar, right? Man, it's the second time apple tree. This is the second time apple has come up in my in the past 2 days for me. That's a trip. Let's see. But when we recognize the necessity of change, we take advantage of its offering, just as the apple tree might blossom early in spring if the weather is unusually warm. Okay, okay. These changes are necessary to allow us suitable periods of growth on each of our three vital levels: physical, spiritual, and mental. Such growth must always be followed by periods of stabilization and consolidation, during which the preceding period of development can be properly assimilated. Wow. I was getting that thought or coming to that conclusion in meditation and what have you back in 2017. Um, I was reading a book. I think it was called Opening of the Way. Opening of the Way. I don't. I might have a PDF. I don't remember. I printed out the book though. Um, and so, excuse me, I had to send off a text. Let me turn off the volume on my phone. So I was reading this book called Opening of the Way. It was talking about the breath of life. It was talking about God breathing in and out, us breathing, inhaling and exhaling. And I can't remember the words in the book. I'm not sure if it said it so specifically as I was getting the visual for it and reading in between the lines of what it was saying, during my meditation. But I was understanding, the exhale, breathing in data, and the inhale, breathing in, and then because when you're breathing in, your lungs are expanding, right? So you're adding data, information, growth. I was doing a lot of research during this time. I was doing research nonstop. And so I was just eating a lot of data, eating up a lot of information, you know what I mean? And just, that exhale, that bringing in the data. And then that inhale and then the exhale, you're releasing, it's compacting the lungs back, right? So I was thinking about that in my meditations, primarily because I was learning so much information. I don't know, I was seeing it visually, like life being like a frequency, right? A frequency wave. And I was thinking about the highs and lows because I was going through a lot and I was also just eating up all this information. And I was realizing, speaking of patterns and cycles, I was doing shadow work and what have you, right? Learning about triggers and things like this. And so I was just really realizing the difference between ascent, different waves. You can learn a lot of information, so your wave will be really sharp, and then you'll have a sharp downfall from that. Or you could like, I was just learning to pace myself and not do so much and kind of slant it more so that the crash wouldn't be as sharp and shocking, if you will. I was learning that kind of stuff. I was thinking about all that. All that was coming up in my meditations. So when it was talking about, stabilization, consolidation, it made me think of the lungs, the inhale and the exhale, and how as you're inhaling, your lungs are expanding, right? And then when you're exhaling, it's compacting. And this is the breath of life. This is the cycle. And I just equated it, and I still do. I had to kind of, I had to learn about peaks and valleys in my own life in so many ways. It was just, living life and experience. It was just me in my journal, right? Writing down, doing shadow work, um, things like that. So, yeah, I understand what's being said here. If you want to do some shadow work, don't forget you can get journals at cedargroveherbs.com, right? And you can use code Pure Love for 15% off. But yeah, I get what's being said here. Such growth must always be followed by periods of stabilization and consolidation, during which the preceding period of development can be properly assimilated. Facts. So, personal year cycles are not haphazard occurrences. They're very carefully planned by the same creative force that governs everything that's created. Wow. Okay. So it's a cycle. Just like, the planets, the cycles of the planets, and Saturn return and what have you. Personal years also have our cycles. These are cycles. Interesting. With the recognition of these cycles, we become more aware of the divine plan of life, learning not to expect each year to be one of dynamic progress and material gain. If we recognize each year for its particular aspect of growth or stability, we're equipped to wisely select our activities in accordance with our need for physical, spiritual, or mental development. More progress is always achieved by swimming with the current than by fighting against it. This is just so, I said that this whole apple, this thing, the apple tree, the apple seed came up to me twice in the past 2 days. This morning I was up Googling how long does it take an apple seed to bear fruit? You know what I mean? How long does it take for an apple seed once you just put it in the ground? How long does it take to bear fruit? And it was saying like 5 to 10 years, 7 to 10 years for it to bear fruit. So, yeah, life has cycles. Everything has cycles. And us too. We have personal year cycles. Wow. And if we understand this, we become more conscious, more aware, and we stop expecting each year to be one of dynamic progress and material gain, right? We'll recognize each year for its particular aspect of growth or stability. It's either a growing phase or a stability phase, which is consolidation. Wow, right? You got to compact that earth in so many ways. This is a trip. This is interesting to me. Cycles of change penetrate every aspect of life. The 24-hour day night cycle is designed to alternate growth and rest over a comparatively short period. The 4-season year facilitates growth and rest over a larger time span. Both cycles are governed by the sun, and that too has cycles of change. Planet Earth has annual cycles too. Its years of change synchronize with the 9-year cycle that applies to human evolution. Did you know it was a 9-year cycle? Every 9 years, a complete cycle is made, with changes occurring each year within the cycle as one month inexorably glides into the next. For human life and our planet, the nature of the influence of each year is symbolized by successive year numbers. For humans, these are called personal year numbers. For the planet, they're known as world year numbers. Okay, okay. The nature of the influence of each year is symbolized by successive year numbers. To fully understand this progression, we must accept that our present calendar system, or we just must accept our present calendar. See, this is the issue. Because we were talking about the calendar in a earlier episode of this book. We were talking about how the calendars have changed. In the past, calendar had like 14 missing days. Like from the last calendar to this calendar that we're in now, there was a gap of 14 days. But then they also said that that calendar was correcting or changing or fixing a problem of the calendar before that. So I don't know. We were just talking about how the calendar has changed. He says to fully understand this progression, we must accept our present calendar system. From it, we can interpret other systems if we so desire. But first, let us perfect the one that we know and use, realizing that all calendar systems are in harmony with each other and with those that they've succeeded. Are they, though? Are they? I get it, though. We'll start here. So let's start here. With our current global system of time management, we find that the 9-year cycle numbers continue relentlessly through this Christian era in exactly the same manner as they did in the preceding Roman, Greek, and Hebrew calendars. There is a slight variation in the meaning of the numbers, as would be expected when we recognize the modifications in lifestyles, attitudes, and consciousness brought about by the birth of Christianity and subsequently of personal awareness in the new millennium. Analyzing world numbers, Analyzing world year numbers gives an interesting guide to general trends. But only when these are applied to the world's decision makers do we attain the full picture of what to expect and how to understand what has occurred. Before we can attain individual personal year numbers, we must calculate world year numbers for the year in question. Let's take the following examples. For 2003, you would add the 2 and plus the 0 and 3, and it would give you 5. For 2004, add the 2, 0, 0, and 4, and it will give you 6. And for 2005, add the 2 plus the 0 plus the 0 plus the 5, and that would give you 7. And 2006, add the 2 plus the 0 plus the 0 plus the 6, and it would give you 8. Thus, the world year numbers for the above 4 years are 5, 6, 7, and 8, respectively. The cycle of world year numbers runs from 1 to 9 consecutively, then back to 1 for the following cycle through to 9 again, and so on. During certain decades, the world year number of 4 became a 22-4 vibration. So in certain decades, the world year number of 4 became a 22-4 vibration, as seen in the years 1894. Okay, because you add those numbers up, the 1, the 8, the 9, and the 4, and you'll get a 22. Okay, 1939, 1948, 1957, 1966, 1975, 1984, and 1993. It won't happen again until the year 2299. Wow. Any of y'all peoples, you guys, you know anybody in these born in these years? Because remember, the 22 in the last episode we saw, the 22 is actually the master number. So 11 is not a master number. 33 is not a master number, not according to this. This is the Pythagorean version of based off the Pythagorean. I don't know, but they said in this book the 22 is the only master number. So you're born in one of these master year number years? Let us know in the comments. The power exerted by the 22-4 vibration will always leave its mark on world history, especially when it includes the powerful idealism or ambition of the double 9, as in the years 1939 and 1993. The unbridled ambition of a German dictator in the 1930s caused an ill-prepared Britain to declare war on him when the third 9 combined with the imagination of the double 3 on September the 3rd, 1939. Wow. We experienced the same set of vibrations in the 1990s with the emergence of another dictator who, for most reports, is no less ruthless in venting his ambition upon the world. Saddam Hussein has tried twice in Iran and Kuwait to conquer, but his personal numbers were even more powerful in 1993, a 22-4 world year number, when his personal year number was an ambitious 9 and he was at a significant peak on his pyramids. Again, we'll hear about that in chapter 10. Okay. All right. The world year number prevails for the duration of the calendar year, January 1st through December 31st. This clearly indicates that our personal year numbers are functions of the calendar year, irrespective of how far into the year our birth date might fall. Thus, whether a person's birth date falls on January 12th or December the 1st, they still share the identical personal year number each year. Approximately 11% of the world's population has the same personal year number each year, so never feel alone. As an example of how easy it is to calculate anyone's personal year numbers, let us use the birth date of 12/27/1998. A person with such a birth date has a ruling number 3, and that's because if you add up the numbers of each, just add up all the numbers of this birth date, the 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 7 plus 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 8, you'll get a number, and then you add those digits together, you'll get a number. And as you do this, you're reducing it all the way down to a single digit. That single digit will be your ruling number. This person's ruling number would be 3 when it's reduced all the way down to number 3. So that would be their ruling number. It says, and in 1998, a personal year number of 3. But in 1999, this person's personal year number was 4, while her ruling number remains unchanged as 3 and will continue to be so for the rest of her life, right? So her whole life she'll have this ruling number 3, but the personal year number will change year by year. Her successive personal year numbers for the 4 years of world year numbers that we used in the previous example are, okay, in 2002, this is how we're going to calculate her personal year number. In 2002, you take the world year number of 4 because you had to calculate the world year number first. And then you add in the month that she was born and the day that she was born. So you add 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 7. You add 4, the world year number. So you'll add 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 7, and you get 16. And you add them because you're trying to get it down to a single digit. 1 plus 6, and it will be 7. So her personal year number in 2002 will be 7. In 2003, again, you take the world year number of 5 for 2000. You got to find the world year number first. And then you take that, which will be 5 in this case, and then you also add in her the month that she was born and the day. So you would take 5 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 7. It would be 17. 1 plus 7 is 8. And as we can see by the pattern, it's going up, right? And then when you get to 10, you got to reduce that down to a 1. It starts to cycle all over again, 1 through 9. Okay, do we see that? Let me know in the comments section if you're keeping up, right? And if you're enjoying the video so far, if this is interesting to you, we're seeing how easy it is to calculate a personal year. But why do we need to? It said there's going to be cycles, right? There's cycles. So her personal year number for these years is 7, 8, 9, and then 1, respectively, while the world year numbers appear as 4, 5, 6, and 7, as we saw, right? So what about charting your personal year cycle? Similar to depicting the cycle of any waveform, electrical, sound, light, and so on, the personal year cycle with its peaks and troughs can be graphically represented as this. Okay, the personal years are going in a cycle from 1 through 9. We see it, and then we see the proportion of power. Okay, wow. Your personal year numbers? Tell me more. It's clearly seen that the personal years 9 and 1 collectively form the major peak in the cycle. The personal years 9 and 1 are major peaks in the cycle. Yes, I see that. And the personal year 6 is a minor peak. I see that as well. When it gets to 6, it's always a minor peak, but 9 and 1 are major peaks. The troll years are represented by the personal years 4 and 7. Let me see. 4, yes. Okay. Remember not to regard those troll years as bad years, but as consolidating or stabilizing years that only become difficult if we attempt to move against the flow and make major changes or seek continued progress in those years. Okay. So don't go against the flow, right? Just go with the flow. Chill out, just go with the flow. And don't make major changes, right? Because if you're planting a apple seed, don't try to make changes. Don't try to change it into an orange tree seed mid growth. You know what I mean? It's growing. Don't try to change directions after you already planted the seed and put in energy to, getting that thing to grow. You see what I'm saying? Man, this is talking to me. I love it. It's like an answer right on time. It's why we're reading this. This is exactly why we're doing this book club and we're reading this. We're getting information that'll help us understand reality better. Wow. After another vital observation is that each successive cycle progresses higher than the previous. Oh, really? On the graph, the second personal year 9 is more powerful than the previous peak of 9. Look at that. I see the first 9 all the way to the left. The second 9 is higher. The third 9 is higher still yet. The fourth 9 at the end of the graph on the right is higher still yet. Yes, I can see that pattern. It is an observation. Each successive cycle progresses higher than the previous. Likewise, successive trolls do not plunge as far down the power scale as their predecessors. They get higher and higher too. Amazing. This is great news. Now this is see, that's why we started out with the occultic definition, occult. Somebody doesn't want everybody to know this information. That's why it's only available to the initiate. In these days and ages, you'd have to go and look for it. Back in the day, they had mystery schools. Everybody knew there were mystery schools, and they were learning this kind of stuff in there. And you could go to the mystery school if you wanted to. Now, y'all don't even know. You don't even. We don't even know what a mystery school. What's a mystery school? It's occultic. It's oh my gosh. Is it the devil? It's demons. No, it just means you have to be initiated into this information. It's secret information. Wow, aren't we glad to be here? It says this progression is symbolic of our growth through life. Through the degree though the degree of progress will vary from person to person and rarely be as uniform as the average depicted on the above graph. Hmm. Each personal year number, PYN, plays a natural role in our life's unfolding. And within each year, each month asserts its own influence, such that our ability to chart a more successful path in our lives is as readily at our disposal as our roadmaps for the motorist who's about to travel over unfamiliar territory. As a roadmap reveals to us which direction to take, the nature of the terrain, and what we're to expect along the journey, so the understanding of our personal year numbers similarly prepares us for greater success throughout life's journey. Wow. As can be readily seen from the following explanations of each of the personal year numbers and their monthly variations, such direction is uniquely invaluable. I was going to say, this is priceless information, right? It's unique because this guidance is based on the Pythagorean numerology. See, I told you, the science of numbers, modified and updated for this era over the past 60 years, first by my master teacher, Hetty Templeton, and then by me in the further development of her work. It's invaluable because it assists each of us to direct our lives more accurately towards success rather than zigzagging from one disaster to another over most of our years. Through understanding our lives, we've solved one of the greatest of all puzzles. Ooh, I can't wait to write all this down, find out my personal year numbers. I cannot wait. I'm gonna do that right now actually. We're gonna wrap this up because I see when we come back we'll start going over the personal year numbers 1 through 9. I see we're going to start with 9 though, and then um, well, on the next episode, what we'll do is we'll start with 9, and then we'll read about number 1, and we'll read about number 2 as well. Right? Sound about right? Looks to me that that's what we're doing here. So, dang, I told you guys I did a little alchemy before on my life to affect change. I ran out of time. I don't have the time to tell you about it right now. That's all right. We'll talk about it when we come back on the next episode. This is some interesting stuff, right? I'm going to jump off of here and go track, go chart, go add up the numbers and find out my personal years. So I got to start with the world year, right? Do that type of stuff and so on and so forth. Um, I'm going to do that. And when we come back, or meet me in the chat room. I like to talk about this type of stuff with people that are into it. You know what I mean? I'd like to be able to have conversations on these things. That's why we're doing these videos. So if this is something you're into, you can meet me in the chat room. You can get a free PDF of this book in the chat room. Just come in there and ask me for a free PDF. I'll give it to you. Easy peasy. And we can talk about it. The chat room is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I really hope to see you guys there. In the meantime, I hope that you like, share, and subscribe this video. Right? Click the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the upcoming episodes. We have more to go in this book for sure, so you don't want to miss any of that. Until then, until next time, I hope you enjoy your day, the rest of your day. Enjoy the weekend. Wholeness and balance.